Morning. Thursday morning again. I don't know how it happens. And hello to anybody that's on the screen as well. It's become like, I call it Zoom and room. We're trying to get more back into the room, but there's still definitely the gift of Zoom in that when it's difficult for people to get to different parts of the world, we can actually still be together. And I just started a class next door, which on a Thursday, when you don't have learning here, if you don't know about it, Rebbetzen Rochel Silber does Thursday morning to Hillim Sham, and Rebbetzen Silber is just a gem to be around, right? So to meet some, just to have and in Eretz Yisrael. So it's such a gift. It is such a gift for us that we're able to use these things and be all over the world. And on most classes today, and on our Thursday evening, we have Rebbetzen Trebler with us tonight. It's incredible because we literally go, I know that whenever I put on my Zoom, we have South Africa, we have Israel, we have Gibraltar, we have Manchester, London, and really literally, and people come from America because it's the middle of the afternoon. And it really is quite an incredible thing to be able to do and to have and to share. And more than that, also to feel that we actually, and to know that how connected we really are. Yeah, I said to Tsipi, we're always looking for titles. So what's a title? What does that mean? Okay, something happens. Tsipi's here. When something goes on in London, I always say, you're lucky that Tsipi's husband is actually here and her kids. Otherwise, I would have already taken her down to London. So now we just managed to get her helping us all the time from London. And honestly, I want to just really say here in front of Tsipi that without Tsipi, really what really comes out of our screen, what comes out of all of our learning, honestly, it really is like that, because we have to understand where we are and what we are really doing in the world. And it doesn't matter whether we're learning from our Parsha, whether we're learning from the Siddur Sharon, whether we're learning from Derech Hashem. Torah is Torah, and Torah is all-encompassing. And when we understand that whatever it is that we're doing and how we're learning and how we're growing, we're all part of this really incredible body. And the more we recognize that our being as a Jewish nation is a body, and we can see what a body is, and we know all the bones and the sinews and the muscles, and we don't even understand how our bodies actually function and work, but that every single Jew in the entire world, wherever they might be, even in Uganda, okay, even the lost tribes, we don't know, but every single Jew is part of the functioning body. And when we acknowledge and understand that in our tiny little bit of who we are, we create the function, because when something's not working properly, the whole bit doesn't work. And that's really what, oh, hello. I said this would work out in Deborah's busy. She's working. We're not going to see her. Oh, my goodness. You see, we even have Deborah here with us. I was like, oh. So when we understand that even Deborah's participation in here has changed the world, right? We need to know, it's okay, we're all responsible. Nobody's leaving here without a responsibility for something that we're not going to do to change. Okay, because really that's what it is. We're living in a world that we think is kind of, I don't know, pretty gray, okay? And there were times in our history that it was much darker. And when we actually go through and we learn through where we've come from and what we've been through, it is nothing short of actually being able to stand up and say, we are absolutely a miracle. And Yaakov Shweki does it great, And when you're driving through Spain and when you're going to different places and you put on the song and you've just left a place called Cordoba, we recognize that, do you know what was here? We walked into the old city of Cordoba, and there was somebody who worked in a restaurant, and he sees my husband and he says, are you a Jew? And my husband says, yes. I'm like, okay, he recognizes us. This is amazing. And he says, can he have a picture with him? He wants to show his wife that there's a real living Jew. And I was like, I need to get out of this place. You know, you're kind of like, I need to get out of this place. If this is, and I have to tell you, walking into Cordoba for me, I literally felt like I was going back into Poland. I have that feeling of where you are in a place, we know what goes on, we know what went on. We shouldn't kid ourselves that having a nice holiday place in Spain is amazing now. It's amazing. Let's go to Spain on holiday. But you know what they did to us in Spain? Right? We have to remind ourselves. And really, wherever you go on holiday, so it doesn't really matter. Wherever we go in the world, there's somewhere, okay, that they just don't want us around. But here was actually somebody who was like, wow, you know, we went to Euro Disney, and my husband was wearing a cap, a red cap, and he has a pretty white beard. And when we went into one of the smaller places, and the man says to him, "Ooh, Santa Claus in Disneyland." In his red cap. It's like one of my grandchildren were being pushed around in a little thing in, you know, one of the shopping centers. Saba! So, you know, there we go. But really what we see is that wherever we go, where we come from, we have come through a place of destruction in the time of wherever we go from. We go back to the beginning of our history, and we go through our Bayis Rishon, the first temple, and the second temple. And last week, as we listened to the beautiful words, and we see, you know, when we talk about Hannah, and we, on one of our late women's trips, we went and we stood in Shiloh. It was the first time that I'd actually been to Shiloh. And we stood there, and we stood in the same place that Hannah David. And she prayed, and she was blessed with Shmuel Hanavi. And then after that, we went to the gravesite of Shmuel. We went to Nebi Samuel to cover Shmuel Hanavi. We are living through history, through presence, and through the future of really who we are, where we've come from, and how we're living. And every year we go through the same repeating. Every week, every day, we're saying the same brachas, we're saying the same prayers, we're saying the same words of David HaMelech every single week, every day. I went last, I can't remember what day it was, Tuesday morning. No, yeah, it was Tuesday morning. A friend of mine picked me up. I didn't, you know when your alarm clock's going to go at 6, and you just wake up every 15 minutes to check that you haven't missed the alarm clock. And then at 6:30, when I was supposed to get up, I said, I'll have 5 minutes sleep. And at 7 o'clock, when I woke up, and I was supposed to be downstairs at 5 to 7, I was okay. And I was dressed in about 4 minutes. My friend put on the kettle to make me a coffee to take with, but I was out the door before the kettle boiled. That's how quick we actually managed to do it. Because I actually did, we were hoping that Rebbetzen Hela Gottlieb was going to maybe come with us. And I thought, can you imagine if I keep the Rebbetzen waiting? Oh my gosh. Anyway, we got to the kever of David HaMelech, and we didn't. Rebbetzen Gottlieb and her husband couldn't join us. But I was like a little bit relieved that I wasn't keeping her waiting. And we walked into kever David HaMelech, and my friend says, I've not been here. And she lives in Yerushalayim. And it was just incredible. But what's so incredible, it's only incredible when we understand who it is and what we're doing. Because if we don't understand that connection of what it is that we're supposed to be doing, then what are we actually doing there? While we're standing there, and I've never seen this before, I have to be honest, there was an American lady holding her phone. She was wearing like a long sort of coat, and she literally was on the floor, threw her phone down on the floor, cried a word or two to David HaMelech, and got up and walked out. And my friend and I just looked at each other, and we said, okay, just another Jewish person coming to share their inner feelings. And I think that maybe at a time before I might have thought, gosh, is she okay? But I actually thought, I really hope she is okay. because this was obviously one of our needs. And we're in that position where we have this as an opportunity all the time. When we look into our parasha and we see what we actually are able to do and how we can learn different concepts, which we have to actually take and put into action. You know, everything that we learn and do, it's not an intellectual academic exercise. We have to know what's happening, how it happens, and what we're going to be doing in order to put it into action. So we have to have the learning, we have to have the understanding in order to do something. But if we don't do it, then we're defeating the purpose of really what we're here for. And we also are missing a little bit of the cell or a part of the body that's not functioning the way it should be. Now, when I started the share next door and I listened to the first couple of sentences of Rebbetzen Silver, I can't say that she didn't go on about her normal thing about eating healthy. You know, she says it's one of her things and we have to look after ourselves. I'm thinking, I know. Yeah, I do. I say it every day. It doesn't make a difference, you know. It does make a difference. At least I've said it and I've heard it and I've thought it. And whether I do it or not, I don't know. I mean, you just have to go to the back table and you have a choice. You know, we have a choice of what we do. We have a choice of, yes, I know we can take the greens and the healthy and the this and everything else, but we can also have a little bit of other stuff as well. And I was listening to my friend this morning having a conversation on the phone with somebody else, and they were talking about the diabetic situation. And I'm listening and saying, oh, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I know what I'm supposed to choose. I know what I'm supposed to eat, but it's very hard, you know. And I thought, you know what? As Jews, we know the same. We know what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to do it. And it's very hard, you know, because it becomes a choice. And it becomes a choice in how we see things and what we give it. And can you imagine being in a time where you asked, where every man in the nation goes and he gives his half a shekel. And we count ourselves by these places. And then we look at it and say, what is this matzchit shekel? What is it? We're going to be coming up to Purim. Don't you feel like it's always Shabbos, always Thursday, always Purim, always Pesach? It's like it just comes around so quickly. And there's so much that we're doing in between. But I love Pesach. We love Pesach. Just convince yourselves, I have to tell you. And I don't know if I should really say it on here, but anyway. Should I say it? I don't know. We're still in a bit of a dilemma. We've been invited to a very, very nice place to go. So we have dilemmas in life, you know, because really it's beautiful and it's in Morocco. And if you saw the pictures of the place, it's like.
So are you going?
At the moment, no. At the moment, no. At the moment, no. Yeah, you're right. 2 years ago, we didn't have a choice. So I'm not working on this choice. Anyway, there's certain things that I had to check because of not Torah dietary laws that we have, whether they keep to this or whether they do that. And I was having a conversation with this lady and she's explaining to me how, you know, somebody told me the meat all comes from Strasbourg. She says, are you mad? I'm like, no. So she says, well, how can you bring all the meat from Strasbourg? Actually, what they do is they bring the shachtim, the shaychet, come from Strasbourg and do the shchita in Morocco. I mean, this is just not amazing. Anyway, there are all other complications, but you have moral dilemmas. What about my other children? What about the grandchildren? What about Chol Hamoed? And then you start convincing yourself, I'm not going to get to see them all the time. And, you know, they do their thing with the other half of the family. And then you're sitting there and I said, please, Hashem, just make this easy for me. And I thought he made my decision for me so easy yesterday. And then there was an added complication. So we'll wait and see. So I'll let you know whether I wave to you from Morocco or from Golders Green. And you will see the difference because in Golders Green I might be. And in Morocco, I'm sure I will be. But Mashiach comes before that, we're all in Yerushalayim together. Okay? And Pesach is stunning because we have to remind ourselves where we're going now. We're on our journey. We're on the last part of the journey before we're going to our spiritual freedom. forget the hard work. My husband and son went home yesterday. You want to hear this? It's like, honestly, I get a video clip. I wish I could actually show it on the screen behind you because you could translate for me what this means. I have a cleaner who comes in on a Friday night, which is just wonderful when she comes at the right time. And she's like, she comes in for a short time, and in the middle of the winter, the house is, the kitchen is all clean and beautiful and tidy before you go to sleep, which is really nice to wake up to Shabbos morning. But she said to me she had a couple of extra hours before when I was leaving to get on the train to come to Manchester. And I'm thinking, I know she's got hours now, take them. But for what? So I stupidly told her to clean out 2 cupboards where I keep all my flour and my all different things and all the baking stuff, and to clean all the shelves and to line them with paper towel. I have to tell you, I use the Costco paper towel to line my shelves because it works the best. They absorb and in and out, and it works fantastically. My husband sends me a video clip. Everything from those 2 cupboards are on the counter. He's not going to put it all back to make it not good for Pesach, right? And so I'm thinking, well, I'm not there. What do you want me to do with this? He sent me that just to know. So all my cupboards, when I get home today, are actually down on the countertop. I can see what I can use before to get rid of things and to use them up for Pesach. But I've also got other things to do today. So we make plans and we think it's so wonderful. But Hashem says to us, well, just think often about what the ramifications are going to be before we actually do things. And we're going through now that perfect time where we are in a process of saying, we're coming to Purim, we've got a whole extra month. You know, on Tuesday, it was Purim Katan, okay? It was the Purim before Purim in Adar Sheni. And in the morning, I'd learned on my Tuesday morning class with the ladies what we do when it is Purim Katan, small Purim. And small Purim and big Purim, regular Purim, have the same ability because of the energy that comes into the world for us to daven. And we should make a proper Suda, we should make a meal. And you know what I did? I said, okay, girls, I took with me, you should wash and have a little meal, and you should have a little bit of wine, because it's Purim. And you talk to Hashem like it's Purim. So I have a picture that I sent on my group of my little meal, my salad, my roll, and in my little water bottle, my red wine. And a lot of people send me pictures of their little meal. My friend says, can I have frozen pizza and wine? I said, well, defrost it first. Defrost it first. Then have it with your wine. She should just be well and healthy. That's where her headspace was, you know? And I said, this is Purim. So the Purim is preparation for everything that we're doing and where we're going to. We're going to spiritual freedom. How do we make spiritual freedom? By choosing what we do with things. By choosing how we use the gifts that Hashem gives us. So our half shekel is not just the half shekel to count people. It's a gift that Hashem says that I give you. And we're going to show you and see that actually what this gift is. Rabbi Tversky brings down this beautiful idea and explains to us. And he says, and they shall give half a shekel to achieve forgiveness for your souls. Why do we give tzedakah? What do we say? Yom Kippur, what do we say? Tzedakah, tatzil, mimaves. Giving tzedakah will save a person from death. Sounds a bit of it's great. Yeah. Whenever we want something good, we want to give tzedakah. Why? Because Hashem gives us things we want to give back. And we say, did you see what I just did? Did you see? He saw. But you can remind him. I sat on the train and I said, Hashem, really? This is the first time that I've actually properly made Purim cotton Suda. Why did I make it? Because I taught people about making it in the morning. And if you teach somebody about doing something, You got to do it yourself. So I think my husband thought that I had really lost the plot, and he was quite happy to be sitting in the seat with my son behind and not next to me with my wine and salad and bread. Not that anybody else would notice. You ever been on the train here? I've been on the train like 10 o'clock in the morning, and people are taking out their beer and their wine and they're putting out their thing, and I'm like, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. And so what? We do that on Shabbos too. Comes the early morning Kiddush. You know, if you go to some of the Kiddush clubs, 9 a.m., because you go and you daven nates. Why do you go daven nates? So you can go and have your whiskeys before you get home for lunch. And then your wife usually doesn't want to see you. Like, okay. So he says like this. He says, what's the beautiful thing? He says, Rabbi Aaron of Kalin said that one can avert any judgment by fulfilling the mitzvah of tzedakah. And we learn this in Mishnah. Sadaka tatsumi maves. This is shown to us by this machzet hashekel, which appears in the verse, and the center letter of the word is a tzadi, which is for tzedakah. The letters on either side are a yud and a hey, yud and a chet, which is alive, which is chai, and the extremes of the word from the distance of the tzadi are the words mem, the letters mem and tov, det, met. If we think for 1 second in our world, in the Torah world, that there isn't everything that is there, that is hidden as well as being able to see. We're living now in a very dark time, but we're also living at the end and the very exciting time. We're living in a time which is more exciting than ever because we're seeing that everything that the Gemara is explaining to us and telling us is happening in our world. Everything. The confusion, the places that we're going to, what we see and what we don't see, the extremes of the world. You know, if anybody's ever been to Poland, and you know, today a friend of mine sent me one of the clip that the priest, what's his name, who's doing all his research on finding Holocaust survivors and finding places, and he's going back to the Ukraine and to Russia and to Poland, and he's going and he is finding not the Jews who are there and survived, but the non-Jews. And he's going to people in their 80s and their 90s and close to 100, and he's making video clips of them, and he is interviewing them, and he is taking them back to places that they never wanted to go and visit. And they are recreating a Forsenic, the way the police do it. The police will take you back to a place where a crime was committed, and they make you look and show you the place, and they replay. And these people are talking about this for the first time over the last 15 years. Why do we need this? Why do we want it? A video clip was shared with me this week of two brothers who thought they were the only surviving members of their family. And one brother had 102, and they met each other for the first time since the war. And I'm like, but Hashem, why did you keep them apart all the years that they could have been together? I don't know. But he brought them together now. A friend of mine just lost her grandmother, who went on Aliyah to live with her parents 7 weeks ago. And they had the hair cutting of one of her great-great-grandchildren, 3-year-olds, for having his halakha. And she's there dancing with them. Dancing, this beautiful lady, dancing with her grandsons, great-grandsons, I don't know this. And she left the world. But what a gift to have that simcha. She was the only lady in the ring, you should know. There was great Safta and her great-grandsons, and they're all dancing. and the simcha and the joy. And then you think, well, Hashem, you could make anything, you could do everything you want. But Hashem wanted that as the gift so that we could also learn a lesson. And they have this beautiful video clips to share, to remind everybody what we can do with the joy and the things that we've come from. And we look at how Hashem is bringing all these things out to us. We say, what are we doing here? What are we supposed to be learning from all these lessons that everybody is sending us? And I've got all these videos. I'm thinking, well, what's the lesson from this? What's the lesson from that? When Hashem wants you to have something, He's going to give it to you. But you never stop asking. We can never stop asking. When we do what it is that Hashem wants us to be doing, then He can say to you, you're doing the right thing. We can finish up our day and we can look behind and we can see and examine the day and say, what did I do that I need to change? What did I do that I could do better tomorrow? Sadly, I don't like writing my list when it gets longer, but like as soon as I start seeing the things that you're supposed to be doing better at, and I think, okay, maybe I should quickly focus on what I did do, and we should do that. But we can't forget about the things that we need to do better. And that's why we are given people that we learn with and our friends, and somebody who cares about you and loves you will teach you how to do it right. So what do? We learn Torah together. And we learn these tiny little lessons. And we learn to appreciate every day and every time that we have, because it all has a purpose. As with our Pesach cleaning and our preparation from Purim, because we are hopefully every day becoming more attuned and aware of our spiritual freedom. You know how blessed we are? Right now, we're living in a world that is very blessed for us because we can live as Jews. We can live as a Jew. Somebody told me this week, I listened to a voice note from Rabbi Ivan Lerner to a friend of mine about what's going on in Russia. Yeah, what does Putin want? Do you know who Putin's friends are? I hope they remain that way. Okay, but the Jews. As a young boy, he had no food. He was looked after by a Jewish neighbor. And his closest confidant is actually Rabbi Lazar, who's the chief rabbi of Russia and a Chabadnik. And he's promised them that he'll look after them. I have a friend whose son lives in Oman, and he's actually went to Israel for his sister's wedding. So he's not flown back on Tuesday because his mother said, you're not flying back into a war zone. I mean, it's one thing if you're there to get out, but we don't know. So he's going to wait. But all his friends are telling him, they want to get everybody out. Israel wants to take everybody out of the Ukraine. And they're saying, no, thanks, we're fine. We're fine. Putin said he'll look after us. But weird, no? Can we trust it? Who knows? Who knows? But just the fact that he's doing that and says that, we're living in a crazy time. Where's Haman? Where's the Achashverosh? Where are all these things? Let's look into the world that we're living in now, and you can transport it back to wherever it was that we came from. And we have to look and see that Hashem hides certain things from us. But we have to learn a lesson, which the Parsha tells us as well. And he says, Belev kol chacham lev natata chochma. And in the hearts of all the wise, I have given knowledge. So who are the wise? Who's wise? All of us sitting here. Why? Why are we wise? Because we're learning. Because we want to learn. And if a person doesn't want to learn and to see how to rectify themselves and to grow into better people, then what are we doing here? What are we wasting our time in the world doing? What are we supposed to be busying ourselves with? Learning Torah, doing mitzvah, and becoming a better person. What else? If we didn't have all day to do, what would we be doing all day? I mean, how much shopping can you do online? Yeah, one of my a very dear friend of ours is taking his wife on holiday after 25 years and coming to London. And she asked me, she says, I don't want to waste, she's actually English, she says, I don't want to waste my time shopping. So is it okay if I use your address to send all our shopping that she's doing now before she comes? So I said, sure. And I sent her our address. And then afterwards she says, oh, it might be quite a lot. So I have this vision of her. I said, well, it's fine. As long as I clear out my front hall, that's what it's for. Our hall gets cleared out. And as soon as it's clear and empty, the other things just come in. That's the way it works. So I'll just make sure that before, it starts coming, and we'll just, I'll just put it all up in the loft for when you arrive. And the only thing I have to say, obviously, to her is no comments upstairs, right? That's it. But when we spend so much time and we invest in things that, what's the necessity of what it is that we have? We've got to find something at every moment in our world that says, I'm focusing on doing things, and it's an easy process. Rebbetzen Silver told me when I asked her for a message for a bat mitzvah girl, I asked her to give me a message for this lovely bat mitzvah girl. Unfortunately, her mother had passed away a few years before, and I wanted to do something a little bit special for her. She sent a beautiful message. We talk about somebody becoming a bat mitzvah. We are all banot mitzvah, right? All of us are daughters of the mitzvahs. Once you pass the age of 12, it doesn't matter. Ad me'avesun shana till 120. You are a daughter of Hashem, keeping mitzvahs. So she said, once a girl becomes a bat mitzvah, she says, you intrinsically become the mitzvah. You're a daughter of mitzvah. You have become now a walking mitzvah. Whatever you do, you're keeping the mitzvahs. Do we ever think of ourselves like that? Isn't it beautiful? Hashem's put me here. Whatever I do, as long as I focus it on, I want to be very nice and I want to give charity. Don't be so nice. Rather make sure that you're giving Sadaka to a good place that you should be giving to. And say, L'shem mitzvah Sadaka. I'm doing this in the mitzvah of Sadaka. You think I really love just putting this in all the time? Yeah. And you are changing something which changes you. That's chokhmah. It's easy to do things when I see it as being easy. So why not, if it's okay to take everything with me, sit on the train, Hashem, I'm making Purim cotton. If I needed to, and you need to make a Purim meal. I've been in a place sometimes where I'm suddenly, oh my gosh, 10 minutes to Shkia, but 10 minutes to sunset, I better wash and make my Purim meal. When we were in Leeds, the first year here, we had 100 students. I had made over 100 kneidlach, let me tell you. They got chicken soup and kneidlach, homemade challah rolls, and then sausages, and I can't remember what else was on the menu, but they had a pretty good thing. And I haven't even done the mitzvah of Shalach Manas yet. I quickly took from the stock, bought from our student boxes. There were, we always had Twix and Coke and Diet Coke and crisps, and quickly went and bought something, put it into a bag, and I said to one of the girls, you're my mitzvah. Okay. Hashem, quickly, I've got 10 minutes. I quickly went and washed and had my roll and benched with everybody else after. But that was my Purim Siddur. And I rely on my husband for giving the Sadaka, so it's fine, but we do it anyway. We are able to do things with ease when we learn how to do them, and it shouldn't become a stressful thing because we live it. We the bat mitzvah. We the girls, we the women that we can make things easy just by saying, I'm going to choose the words I'm going to say, and I'm going to choose how I'm going to dress, and I'm going to choose how I'm going to speak. I'm going to choose whether I'm going to prepare myself and be prepared tonight, which I never am. But by 2 o'clock in the morning, my Shabbos table is at least 85% set because my computer's at the end. since lockdown. We sit there and it's still there. And I still have my learning on Fridays and every day. So before I finish my learning, before I can put away the computer, but my Shabbos table is set. And my challah board is out and the plastic's on and the Kiddush cup is there and my candles are out on my shelf and I'm prepared for Shabbos. Because I changed the mindset of saying, it's not hectic. If I do something and I prepare myself before, then at least my Shabbos candles are there to be lit easily. And it's Shabbos, and it becomes when you wake up in your morning, Rabbi Pesach Brown says, you come downstairs and you see your house and it's Erev Shabbos. It's not Friday anymore. It's not Friday. And simply Hashem is saying to us, I'm giving chokhmah, I'm giving wisdom to those who want wisdom. If you want to use it, you can use it. I do a class called Making Shabbos in an Hour. And please don't believe me because you don't. Okay. If you're cooking for a few people, you actually can. And if you're not making your own challahs or you made them on Tuesday, and but it's a choice. So I've taught very easy, quick schnitzel bags and how to make your quinoa and your rice. And sometimes I see people in the street and I do it all online. And I saw somebody recently on Friday morning in Kosher Kingdom, as one does for the third time round. And when you live so close, you forget. And my granddaughter always says, but Bobby, why don't you just write a list like Emma does? I said, because then I'll leave my list at home. I said, there's some of my children that have learned their organizational skills from watching me, what I don't do. And then, it's kind of like one of those things, not do as I say, not as I do. Okay. But they, thank God, mastered those ones. And she said, you changed my Shabbos for me. And I'm thinking, really, what did I do? She's making rice and quinoa for me was like the biggest headache. And I was like, why? Oh, by the time, and she said, it worked. Into the container, fill it, boiling water, put it in the oven, take it out 20 minutes, and it works, right? And we learn all the hacks. So instead of having to peel your butternut, it takes a long time to peel a whole butternut, right? They're pretty tough stuff. But if you've peeled it a few weeks before and you cut it up and you put it into your freezer in freezer bags, all you do is you put it onto your tray. So it is really a little bit of a, but we can do it in an hour when we want to. We were once in Wales and I made Shabbos in 20 minutes. We'd been in Leeds for ever long, and every day sandwich bar time, which we ran a sandwich bar there. I learned that we took it over from the Kennards. Anybody remember the Kennards here? So we took over the chaplaincy position, and they had a kosher sandwich bar because there wasn't kosher food available. And I can tell you one thing is that we had to do this, and there was tuna, and then I was pregnant then, and I had to make all these disgusting things, and I didn't have a Magimix, and I used to chop cucumber and tomato up and do it every day during term time. And I forgot what I was going to tell you. Wales, thank you. So we go to Wales. One of our students gave us a place to go to Wales, and there was Shabbos, an Erev Shabbos. And my husband took the kids to the beach so that I could do all this preparation and everything for Shabbos. And that's what I was going to tell you. The sandwich bar is, have you ever heard of a thing called Neighbors?
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you, I'm sorry that you have heard of it. And for those of you who haven't, don't worry. But it was one of these. I never watched it, but I can tell you something. It was 1:15, and I knew what time it was because everybody went upstairs, and the people that were helping me and working in the sandwich bar would say, I'm coming back after, okay, to help clear up, right? And they disappear for about half an hour. Yeah, 30 years ago, I still remember this, right? And I'd never watched this thing. And I thought, like, wow, like, this must be really amazing, right? So comes going to Wales, and I've got to make Shabbos, and I opened up a packet of awesome chicken soup. I don't know what I did, but there was very little to do. And my husband had taken the kids out. So I thought, let me put on the news. I don't ever watch like telly or anything. And I put on the news, but there's no news. And I can't find anything. I don't even know I don't know how many channels there were, but I'm really a little bit whatever. And I hear a familiar tune. Yeah. I thought, okay, let me watch. And I sat down and I was like, this is what these students doctors, dentists, lawyers, history and politics. They all left me behind the sandwich bar so that they could go and watch this. And I watched it once and I never needed to watch it again. And that's wisdom. That is wisdom, okay? When we take something and we take a lesson and we say, this is what we can do with the lesson that we have. This is what we're going to do with the lesson that we have. So we learn from everything in our world. Everything that we learn from, we can manage to do something and say, I'm going to learn from this. Why? Because I have to do something that Rabbi Twersky always says, it's a lesson a day. It's growing each day. It's learning each day. It's wisdom each day. That's what we're here for. We're here in the place to make sure that everything that we're going to do, and the Torah comes and reinforces it for us at every stage of the game. We just have to take those lessons and put them into action. So there's a bit of a challenging thing, really, that we're going to be learning again also in our beautiful Pasha, and it's a lifelong lesson in challenging, but we're given this beautiful gift as well of these 13 midas, okay? Now, anybody ever want to learn something called the Tomer Devorah, find yourself a very wise learning partner. And I actually was sitting last night at Sheva Brachas, like somebody told me that she's learning Tomer Devorah. I said, oh, from what you're learning? You know, it's like, it is really a Kabbalistic work. And the real Tomer, the Tomer Devorah is written as a Kabbalistic work, and it is a middle workshop. And anyway, she told me what she was learning from, and I said, I always learned this from the book of the anecdotes of Rebbetzen Sarah Feldbrand. And when I was once at a breakfast, together with Rav Yaakov Hillel, who was speaking there, and I was sat next to the Rebbetzen, and I said to her, I told her, I asked her a question actually that I had on something that I just learned. And she looked at me and said, you can't learn that. And I said, why not? So she says, because it's Kabbalah. And I was like, I don't think what I'm learning is Kabbalah. She says, and I told her the book and what I was learning, whatever. She says, no, you ask Rav Hillel. Anyway, it was an English book, and seeing that he's quite fluent in his English, having grown up in Letchworth. I actually gave his Gabbai the book for him to read, and he guaranteed me after a couple of days, he kept looking at it during his drives around as he was going collecting, and he told me that I have no need to worry. This is not a Kabbalistic work. Takes out little bits of the Tomer Devorah, of all our midas, and gives us anecdotes on how to become a better person. But he sent me a message. He said, you know, in the beginning, because I was telling him, I said, this is so inspirational. He says, that's the problem. He says, what happens? Okay. Why does a person have to have had all the years of learning and all the years of understanding before they can approach anything as a man learning Kabbalah? Why is that? Think of our world and where we are in a place of inspiration. When we're inspired, stage 1, stage 2, and then there's, am I ever going to get out of this one? Gee, it was so exciting. Can you imagine? When a person keeps Shabbos for the very first time in their life, they're not even really keeping Shabbos, but they think they are, so it's okay. We all learn from that. But the excitement, when we do a positive mitzvah for the very first time in our lives, lighting Shabbos candles for the very first time. Last week, I had a beautiful inspirational speaker on Thursday night. And she's a girl who explains how her sister became from and how she was never going to become from, and then she became from. And it was so beautiful. And people have told me, you know, that it's so good to hear it from the other side. I never had to make that choice. Those people who made the choice, it resonates because of the choices that we did make. But we've never had to make that choice. And suddenly we see that's inspiring. And what it should do for us is strengthen us in what we're doing and remind us, do you remember what it felt like? Right? So that's what the Tomer Devorah is like. This is amazing. Kabbalah is amazing. But if you're not wise and you don't have your learning and you don't have a Rebbe and you don't have a teacher and you don't have a mentor, when something comes and it sounds like, really? We have to then be reminded where it all started. And we have to be strong in what we do. And says the Talmud of Torah, what are our attributes that we're supposed to be learning? And in this week's Parsha, we're going to be learning also about the 13 attributes of Hashem that Hashem gave us. And it's a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift because it's a way that we look at other people. I don't know what just happened there. Yeah, you can swap. It's a gift. Imagine yourself standing at our Sinai, waiting for Moshe. You know, imagine. We've got many times in our year that we can imagine standing. Shavuos is the time that we want to remind ourselves of receiving the Torah, but there are many times, and this parsha is one of them. Can you imagine that you're waiting for Moshe Rabbeinu and you lose patience? How can that be? And Moshe makes a bit of a mistake, and then he says to Hashem, you can't do any punishment to these people. What do you mean you can't punish them? Do you know what they just did? Can you imagine? Firstly, you should know, ladies, none of us gave any of our jewels. Okay, there's no gold that was given from any woman to the Egel Hazav, to the golden calf. Nothing. We never gave a thing. All we gave to was to the basin, to the cure, and the mirrors we had, and everything that we did. We only did the good. Women are, for whatever reason, a little bit smarter and wiser. That's why we say chokhmot nashim banta beta, through the chokhmah, through the wisdom of women. And it can be one woman or many women that we all learn from as role models. A woman builds her home. Okay, she builds through chokhmah, through wisdom. Okay, so here Moshe Rabbeinu comes, and what does he see? He sees these people dancing around. I mean, I don't know about you, but if you had to put this into my headspace, and I'm standing and I'm thinking, these people are the closest to having been experienced miracles. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what they saw? Can you imagine? And then you see the sea split. You walk through and you think like, this is a miracle. How did Hashem do that? And just soon after, you're prepared to just like, and we do this all the time, just by the way. Okay. But when we look at the history of the Jewish people and we see how many times the Jews have done, you have Nevi'im, okay, in our Haftarah this week. We're going to have the Nevi'im, we're going to have all these wonderful prophets, but we're also going to have people that bow down to the Baal, right? So we have the extremes, and there's a battle, and people are in the battle. Do I go with Hashem or do I go with Avodah Zarah? It shouldn't be that difficult for us to see that. So what happens to us? How do we manage after all this time of reading and learning and understanding, and we do it every day. Every day. There's something that is challenging each and every one of us that says, do I do this or do I go with Hashem? Do I go with Hashem or do I do this? Every day. Okay? So we are going to be put in a place where we're going to say, okay, let's see what we're going to be able to do. Now, this will take 13 weeks at least. So I just want to give you a couple of things just to try and focus on for ourselves, to remind ourselves how we're supposed to see each other and how we're able to actually build our midas and how we have to learn how to be with other people in the challenge and the difficulties. So I'm going to tell you one of the things that I found when we meet with people and we speak is that to forgive a person for doing something where they chose to wrong you, it was calculated, and they decided they want to, I don't think they want to do, maybe they do want to cause the other person to have a loss, but whichever way it is, there's a person who's told me the story that her husband was a very, very wealthy man, and they had somebody who was known to their community who had started a investment, and they convinced him to invest. I've never heard these she had never told me this before. Something came up and we spoke about it, and she told me that her husband invested £5 million. I was like, gee, didn't know he had £5 million before that. It's like, and not only did he invest his own money, but he got friends as well to help to invest, because this investment was and the money was gone. Now, this man was sitting in jail who took their money. And when Trump was leaving, he's able to pardon an amount of people. However, in order for this Jewish man to be pardoned, they needed a letter of forgiveness. And her husband was asked to write a letter of forgiveness. And she said to me these words, people think my husband is mad and crazy and whatever, but he wrote that letter. She says, I haven't decided yet whether I think he's mad and crazy, but he's a holy man. He's an absolute Sadaka. And he wrote this letter, and it got directly to Trump, and this man has been pardoned. So his only question was what about the other people who had lost their money in their investment? And he was told that he, as long as he really feels in his heart that he's able to do this, that he can write that letter, otherwise he mustn't do it. And he wrote the letter. And she said that she knows that something changed, certainly for her, in her world, after this letter had actually, even before the person was pardoned, even before they were let out or anything, but it changed something in her. Because she said every time she looked at her husband, she was thinking, how did you do that? How did you do that? And she said she had to then go and find in her own place how also to be forgiving. And she said, don't worry, thank God, we're okay. And he has, in turn, over the years, helped other people who weren't okay. So I'm not worried about us. But how do we really do this? And when I said to her, I said, it's like I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, this is what we learn about in the Talmud Torah. This is part of our 13 attributes. This is what Hashem is saying to us every day. And the question for me is how and when are we all given opportunities to do this, not on such a big deal, not on that way, but in our own tiny little lives. People annoy us. People cause us aggravation. People that, nobody here. People who maybe even live in our homes and leave shoes lying around at the front door with a bit of mud, and think somebody is going to clean it. And the saddest part is somebody cleans it. It's like, they're your football boots. Like, no, but Emma, you're my mommy. Yeah, exactly. We all have opportunities. And when it says that Hashem has mighty in compassion to give all creatures according to their needs. Hashem knows what we need. And he gives us Rachum, merciful that humankind may not be distressed, that he is Chanun, that he is gracious if humankind is already in distress, that he is Erech HaPayim, slow to anger. Slow to anger. And if any of us need to learn it, and I've been through it already a few times, we learn Igeris HaRamban on a Friday night after you've lit your candles. Just remind ourselves, this is what Hashem does. Can you imagine how much pain we cause him? Have him watch us just for a few minutes and think, oh my gosh, sorry, I'm trying. And then we've got to look at everybody else around us and think that they're also saying, sorry, I'm trying. V'rav chesed, and plentiness in chesed, in giving, in acts of kindness. Don't wait for somebody else to be kind, just do it. Someone told me she lives in an apartment where her neighbor drives her nuts. And she's a carer of a man of 106. And when her grandchildren come and play, it's very hard because they complain about the noise and they don't want her grandchildren to come and play. And I said, I understand that. But you know what? If you want her on your side, do chesed for them. Give them cake. And they're anti-religious. When you're living in Israel, you're living with anti-Haredi and anti-religious and anti-this. They don't even mind what you do. Just do kind things. Hashem is kind to us. Give her cake, send her challah, give all the things that you can. Be nice. When she shouts at you, say, I'm so sorry. I wish I could make it easier for you. I'm not going to change not having him, but I want to make it easier for you. Tell me how I can make it easier. Because we're slow to anger. And give Rav Chesed and give kindness, the emet and truth. And Noitze Chesed, keeping on doing more kindness. La'alafim, unto thousands, to everyone who's with us. Noise Avon, forgive iniquity. And then forgive transgressions. Forgive another person's transgression, which we feel they have done something against us. Hashem wants us to learn a lesson when somebody even does something against us. And we have to look and say, what I need to learn from that. And sometimes we have to thank people for doing certain things to us, because all they are a messenger from Hashem that says, you can do better. The chatata, and the sins, and the naka, and the pardoning, the nake, okay? And we need to pardon. These are Hashem's attributes, which he gives us because he does it all for us. And if you have a look every day at the things that we do, how we do it, and what we do, just realize that every single thing Hashem is constantly doing for me. Forget about everybody around you, just for you. So when we're given opportunities to do any of these things, we say, this is what we're here for. Hashem's given it to us in our Torah. He says to us, I know it's not easy, just by the way. And we're not expected to be tzaddikim, but we were expected to be tzaddikim in progress. Right? We expected to be tzaddikim in progress. And if we can work throughout our lives and through our days and focus on what's so easy to do, I'm collecting all the time, all the little diamonds. I don't even have to hold them. I don't even have to have a safety box for them. You know why? Because they're in his book and he's watching you all the time. And we're challenged all the time because of human nature. So when we see that, and I say, I am a bat mitzvah. That's what I am. I'm a daughter of Hashem. I'm a daughter of the commandments. And every time I do something, Hashem's smiling and he's saying, okay, keep trying, because you will get there. And when we have an aspiration to be there, and we utilize the wisdom that Hashem gives us, he says, I will put it in your heart for you, and I will give it to you. And in the hearts of all that are wise, I have given knowledge. It is a direct gift from Hashem that is given to us in the parasha, in our Torah. And all we have to do is do the learning, turn it into wisdom, and utilize the way we think and behave before we do things. And I can tell you that it's not easy. Just in case you haven't noticed that, it's not easy. But we have chokhmah, and we can do it. And as we hopefully mature and grow, we recognize, and you know what? When we do it, don't be smug, but you can pat yourself on the back. Say, well done. You did it. And when you're just about to open your mouth back at somebody, and they're waiting for you to answer back, and they're waiting for you to give it straight back at them, and you are saying, Hashem, just help me, help me, help me. Don't let me do it. 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 And if you need to, go to the bathroom, anything. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Okay? Don't do it. And then you say, you see, but remind yourself that the test is going to come around again. You know, we're not put in the chair we wanted to sit in. You're not at the table you wanted to be at. Somebody forgot to mention you. And you're the mother-in-law. Can you imagine that one? Yeah. You know, sometimes when you stand and you're listening, or you're listening to people speaking, and you want to like say to the person, your mother, your grandmother, you know, it's like, because, you know, people get overwhelmed, and boy, do the other people get upset. Okay. And I've seen it. And you know what it is? It's called covered. Everybody knows that you're the mother, the grandmother, the friend, the this, that. Everybody knows. You know your connection. And sometimes Hashem sends us gifts and he says, look. And other times we have to go under the ground and we've got to take away the darkness. Everybody remember yesterday's sky here? The sky.
Yeah.
I was here in the office. I was supposed to be going somewhere and it took me an hour and a half to get out. Not because I could have stayed, don't love being here, but I just looked outside and every time I said, I'm not moving, I'm not going. And then you should have seen the sky. Oh my gosh. When you looked out and you saw the blue and the shapes of the clouds and there was sun and it was literally pushing through the clouds. And I just looked and I thought, Hashem, like, how do you do this? And we have to always be looking for that light that's coming through. The day before I came, which was on Monday, I was taking my granddaughters out for supper for their birthdays. Oh, it's so cute. And they're little ladies, and you know, and they're being polite as well. Like they don't want to spend too much. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is music to my ears. You know, it's like, don't worry. They said, oh, I want this and this and this. I said, no, you can get that and that and that. So I'm like, no, Bobby, it's like too expensive. And I'm like, oh. And then I'm thinking, oh, have whatever you want. And I'm thinking, no, maybe don't. And we came around a roundabout and there was this beautiful view. And there was literally this cloud. It looked like it had this like huge wave. But behind the wave was this yellow and orange and red. And it was just like, and we just stopped for a minute on the side and just like, just look at that. Just look at Hashem's beauty. Look what Hashem's giving us. And he gives it to us all the time. Don't complain about anything. That is Pesach as well, because it's spiritual freedom. So when I'm doing all the things that we need to do, we have to remind ourselves it's a spiritual choice. Do I want to be like this, or do I want to be like that? I want to feel I can tell you, I'm blessed with very, very, very strong, big shoulders. But if I chose to, if I thought about all the people that I know that are going through what they're going through, I would be through the floor here, just holding what we all have. And we have to recognize that. And when we share that, we say, thank you, Hashem, for everything that we have. And I'm going to make this a choice today. And even when I go home today, and yes, in traveling through my choice and whatever, I have to be on that train thinking, when you come home, and supper's it's not expected. It's there. It's a choice. Everything that I do becomes a choice. And when we see ourselves as a bat mitzvah, and the person who's making spiritual choices, and the person who's taking the chokhmah, the wisdom of Torah, and putting it into our real life, everyday little actions. And you're allowed to give yourself a pat on the back. And you're allowed to do a Sarah Yocheved regular thing, which says, make yourself a little envelope. Give yourself a goal. Treat yourself to whatever it is that you want to treat yourself to. And every time you have a struggle with something that you're going through, that you've got to make a decision of choosing good or bad, or better or worse, or holding a grudge or forgiving, you've got to take take money and put it into your envelope. And each thing that you do, according to its challenge, gets rewarded by you according to whether it's worth £1 or 10, and sometimes 20. Okay, but you've just got to remember that your goal has to be within what you can do for yourself. Okay, so let's be reasonable with this. And treat yourself. And you say, this is my mitzvah envelope. My friend told me that she has lots and lots of orchids because she chose to do something, not to get upset with her husband who worked in the house long before lockdown. And whenever she was doing something, like he would walk in, just like, see what's going on in the kitchen or whatever when he needed a break from his office. And she used to look out. And every time she was nice to him when he walked into, she had a little thing and she used to put her pounds, and she started getting this very big collection of orchids. And he says to her, he says, what's going on with the orchids? She says, one day when I am wise enough, I will share with you. But we have to give ourselves that, because otherwise it's hard to continue to do. And we know, and we say, thank you, Hashem. Thank you, everybody. And in Mitzvah Hashem, together, we are going to make this world a better place to be. Thank you.